The soft glow of dawn spread across the small town as Lily walked through the clinic garden, the dew glistening like pearls on the leaves. Ethan was already there, watering the plants with a quiet smile. It had been 3 months since he found her, and life had settled into a peaceful rhythm. Every morning they worked side by side. He helped with small chores, she cared for patients, and every evening they walked together under the fading sky. There were no grand gestures, no expensive gifts, just simple moments filled with quiet laughter and warmth. It was the kind of love that grew slowly, like sunlight through clouds. Ethan had changed completely. The man who once carried arrogance in every step now carried kindness in his eyes. He never spoke about his business or money. Instead, he listened. To the patients, the nurses, and especially to Lily. Sometimes she caught him watching her with a soft smile, not of desire, but of deep admiration. He had once offered her $1 million for one night, but now he would have given everything he owned just to see her smile. One afternoon, Lily found Ethan sitting on the clinic's porch, lost in thought. He held an envelope in his hands. "What's that?" she asked. He looked up, smiling faintly. "A letter. The board wants me to return. They're offering a big project, something that could double the company's worth." Lily's heart tightened. "That sounds important," she said quietly. Ethan nodded. "It is, but—" He looked at her, his expression gentle. "It's not what I want anymore," she frowned. "What do you mean?" "I used to chase success because I thought it would make me feel alive," he said softly. "But now I feel alive when I'm here, when I see you smile, when I help someone who can't repay me. This is real." Lily looked at him for a long moment, her chest tightening with emotion. "You can't throw away everything you've built, Ethan." He smiled sadly. "It's not throwing it away. It's finding a better reason to use it." She sat beside him, her voice quiet. "And what if one day you regret this? What if you regret staying?" He turned to her, eyes steady. "The only thing I ever regretted was losing you. Everything else, the money, the power, the fame, was just noise. You're the only thing that made me want to be a better man." Lily's eyes softened. She had dreamed of hearing those words, but now that he said them, she felt both fear and warmth. "You've changed so much," she whispered. He smiled gently. "You changed me, Lily. You showed me what love looks like when it's real, when it's not about taking, but giving." For a moment, neither spoke. The world felt still. Then Lily reached out and took the envelope from his hand. She tore it open, glanced at the letter, and then folded it neatly before handing it back. "Go," she said softly. "Do the project. Prove to the world that the man you are now can build something meaningful." Ethan frowned, confused. "You want me to leave?" "I want you to grow," she said, smiling sadly. "And if our love is real, distance won't end it. It'll make it stronger." He hesitated, his throat tightening. "I don't want to lose you again." She smiled faintly. "Then don't. Just promise me one thing, that no matter where you go, you'll never forget who you became here." He nodded slowly. "I promise." A few days later, Ethan left for the city. The goodbye was quiet but full of emotion. Lily stood at the small bus station, her heart heavy yet hopeful. As he hugged her, Ethan whispered, "This time, I'm not walking away from you. I'm walking toward the man you made me." Months passed. Ethan returned to his company, but things were different now. He turned his luxury empire into a charity-backed foundation, funding hospitals, clinics, and education programs. Every project he launched carried Lily's quiet influence. Compassion, humility, love. He even renamed his company the Lily Foundation. When asked about the name at a press conference, he simply said, "It's a reminder that the greatest wealth is found in kindness." Meanwhile, in her small town, Lily continued her simple life. She missed him deeply, but she smiled every time she saw news about his foundation. She felt proud that the man who once tried to buy her heart was now helping others find theirs. Then, one evening, as she closed the clinic, she found a familiar car parked outside. Her heart skipped. The door opened and Ethan stepped out. dressed simply, holding a small bouquet of white lilies. He walked toward her, his smile soft and full of warmth. "You came back," she whispered, her voice trembling. "I told you I would," he said gently. "The project's done, but I realized something. All this time, every success, every step, it only mattered because I wanted to come back to you." Lily's eyes filled with tears. "You kept your promise," he nodded. "And now I'm here to make another one." He took her hand, his voice calm but full of feeling. "No more offers. No more money. Just love, real love, built on honesty and respect. I can't change the past, but I can give you every day of my future." Lily smiled through her tears. "You already gave me the best gift. You found yourself." He shook his head softly. "No, Lily, I found you." Their eyes met and the world seemed to fade away. Slowly, Ethan leaned forward and for the first time their lips met, not out of desire or power, but out of pure love. It was gentle, sincere, and full of everything they had lost and found again. As the sun dipped below the horizon, Lily rested her head against his chest, listening to the steady beat of his heart. In that rhythm, she heard all the things he could never say. Regret, redemption, and an unspoken promise that this time, love would last. The billionaire who once believed everything had a price finally learned that the most precious things in life could never be bought, only earned. And beside him, the woman who taught him that truth finally found the love she deserved. It wasn't a fairy tale. It was something better, real. The soft evening light wrapped the small clinic in gold as Lily stood frozen, her heart pounding. She couldn't believe Ethan was really standing in front of her. The same man who once shattered her pride, now looking at her like she was the only thing that mattered. Time seemed to stop for a moment, and all she could hear was her own heartbeat echoing in her ears. Ethan's voice broke the silence, low and filled with emotion. "Lily, I didn't come here to drag you back into my world. I came because I finally realized what you mean to me." Lily hesitated, trying to steady her breathing. "Ethan, you shouldn't have come," she said softly. "You belong in your city, with your company, your people. We live in different worlds." He took a slow step closer. "I don't care about that world anymore. That world gave me everything except peace. I found peace only with you." She looked at him, eyes shimmering with confusion and pain. "Peace?" she whispered. "Do you know what your words did to me? For months, I couldn't even look at myself without remembering that night. You made me feel small, like my worth could be measured in money." Ethan's expression filled with regret. "I know, and that guilt has followed me every day since. You were right, I forgot how to be human. I thought money could fix everything. But losing you taught me it can't fix what's broken inside." He paused, his voice trembling slightly. "When you left, I kept searching, not just for you, but for the man I used to be. I didn't find him until today." Lily's heart softened, but her mind was still cautious. "People don't change overnight, Ethan. You can't erase the past just by saying sorry." He nodded. "You're right. I can't erase it, but I can spend the rest of my life trying to make it right." There was silence for a long moment. The only sound was the wind moving gently through the open window. Lily wanted to believe him, wanted to believe that people could change, but fear still held her back. She had been hurt before and she didn't want to fall again. But when she looked into his eyes, she saw no pride, no lies, no arrogance. She saw pain, sincerity, and love. "Why me, Ethan?" she asked quietly. "You could have anyone." "Because you're the only one who ever saw me as a man, not a billionaire," he said softly. "The night I met you, you treated me like I was just another client. You didn't care about my name or my money. You cared about people. You cared about me even when I didn't deserve it. You made me want to be better." Lily turned away, her eyes filling with tears. "You're making this harder," she whispered. He smiled sadly. "Love isn't supposed to be easy. It's supposed to be real." For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then Ethan took another step forward. "Lily," he said quietly, "when I offered you that $1 million, I thought I was in control. I thought I could test your heart. But the truth is, that night you tested mine. And I failed. Every day since then, I've wanted a second chance. Not to buy your love, but to prove that mine is real." Lily turned slowly, her tears glistening under the soft light. "You hurt me deeply, Ethan," she said, "but I can see you've changed. I don't know if I can forget the past, but—" She stopped, struggling with her words. "But what?" he asked gently. "But maybe. I can forgive it," she whispered, Ethan's eyes filled with emotion. He took another cautious step forward. "Then let me earn that forgiveness," he said softly. "Not with words or gifts, but with time." Lily looked up at him, her voice trembling. "What do you want from me now?" He smiled faintly. "A chance. Just a chance to be in your life again, even if it's only as a friend." She stared at him, searching his face for any sign of deception, but there was none, only sincerity. Slowly, she nodded. "A friend," she said quietly. "We can start there." Ethan's shoulders relaxed, and for the first time in months, he smiled. Not the confident, charming smile the world knew, but one full of relief and gratitude. "Thank you," he whispered. Over the next few weeks, Ethan visited the clinic often, but not as a billionaire. He helped clean the garden, carried supplies, and sometimes sat quietly with patients who had no one else. The townspeople liked him without knowing who he really was. He was just Mr. Ethan, a kind man who always smiled and never talked about money. Lily watched him from a distance, seeing how gentle he had become. He laughed easily, helped everyone, and never once tried to impress her. Slowly, the wall between them began to crumble. One evening, as the sun set behind the hills, Lily and Ethan walked together along the quiet road near the clinic. The air was cool, and the sound of crickets filled the silence. After a long pause, Ethan said softly, "You know, when I first came here, I was scared." "Scared? You?" she asked with a small smile. He nodded. "Yes. Not of losing money or failing a deal, but of losing you again." Lily stopped walking. "And now?" she asked. He looked at her, his eyes full of warmth. "Now I'm scared of something else." "What?" "That you'll forgive me, but never love me again." Lily's breath caught. For a moment, she didn't know what to say. The truth was, her heart had never really stopped loving him. She had tried to bury it under anger and pride, but seeing him now, humble, kind, human, made it impossible to ignore. She took a slow step closer, her voice trembling. "Ethan, love isn't something you can demand or buy. It's something you earn." He nodded. "Then let me earn it. One day at a time." Tears filled her eyes. She looked at him for a long moment, then whispered, "You already are." Ethan reached out gently and took her hand. For the first time, she didn't pull away. Their fingers intertwined, and both felt the warmth they had been missing for so long. The sky above turned soft shades of orange and pink as the world seemed to stand still around them. In that quiet moment, Ethan realized he didn't need her forgiveness to feel whole. He needed her presence. And Lily realized she didn't need to run from the past anymore, because love, no matter how painful, had found its way back to her. The man who once tried to buy her heart had finally learned what real love costs: patience, trust, and truth. And for the first time, he was ready to pay that price. Ethan had faced many losses in life, failed projects, betrayal, heartbreak, but nothing felt like losing Lily. The day she walked away, it was as if the light went out of his world. He tried to focus on work, but the numbers on his screen meant nothing. Every meeting sounded distant, every conversation empty. For the first time, money didn't bring comfort. His assistants noticed how quiet he had become. He no longer smiled, no longer shouted, no longer cared about winning deals. He had built his entire empire on control, but now he couldn't even control his own heart. Days turned into weeks. Ethan visited the spa again, hoping to see her, but Lily had already quit. The manager told him she left suddenly and didn't leave a forwarding address. Ethan felt a deep ache in his chest. He went to her old apartment, but it was locked and empty. Her neighbor said she had moved out a few days ago. She didn't say where she was going, the old woman told him kindly. Just said she needed a fresh start. Ethan thanked her and walked away, his mind racing. He had all the money and power in the world. Yet he couldn't find one woman who didn't want any of it. He started searching quietly, using his connections, not as a billionaire, but as a man desperate for forgiveness. He called hospitals, spas, and small clinics in nearby towns, hoping to hear her name. Each time he was met with silence. The more he searched, the more he realized how much she meant to him. She wasn't just another chapter in his life. She was the only one that felt real. Every night he replayed their last conversation in his mind. "Let me go before this becomes harder for both of us." He finally understood what she meant. She didn't leave because she stopped caring. She left because she cared too much. Meanwhile, Lily had moved to a small town miles away where no one knew her story. She found a job at a small health clinic, doing massages for patients recovering from injuries. The pay was little, but the peace was priceless. Every morning, she walked to work through quiet streets, her heart heavy but calm. Sometimes she thought of Ethan, his eyes, his kindness, his brokenness, and a small ache would rise in her chest. She tried to tell herself it was better this way. "He belongs to a world of glass towers and fancy parties," she whispered to herself. "And I belong here." One evening, while she was helping an elderly patient, she heard a news report playing softly on a nearby TV. It showed Ethan Reed at a charity event, announcing a new foundation for underprivileged students. He looked different, humbler, quieter, wearing no expensive suit, just a simple shirt. When the reporter asked why he had started this project, he smiled faintly and said, "Because someone once taught me that not everything valuable can be bought." Lily froze. Her eyes filled with tears. She turned away quickly, pretending to focus on her work, but her heart was racing. He changed, she thought. He really changed. Back in the city, Ethan was changing indeed. He sold one of his luxury cars and started funding small community programs. His friends thought he was losing his mind. "You're giving away millions for nothing?" one of them asked. Ethan just smiled. "It's not for nothing. It's for peace." Still, no amount of charity could fill the space Lily left behind. Every time he saw a woman with the same gentle smile or heard her name somewhere, his heart tightened. He even began writing letters to her, dozens of them, though he never sent any. Letters full of things he should have said. "You made me believe in love again. I was wrong. I'd give everything just to see you once more." Months passed before he finally found a clue. One of the flower shop owners he often bought from mentioned that a young woman named Lily had ordered a small bouquet to send to a hospital in another town. Ethan's heart skipped a beat. He got the address from the note and immediately left the next morning. The drive was long and quiet. The sun was setting when he finally reached the small town. It was peaceful, filled with narrow streets and small cafes. He asked around until someone pointed him to the clinic where Lily worked. Standing outside, Ethan felt his hands shake. For the first time in years, he was nervous. Not because of business or power, but because his heart was on the line. Inside the clinic, Lily was finishing her shift. She was cleaning up the massage room when one of her coworkers said, "There's someone outside asking for you." Lily frowned, confused. "Who is it?" she asked. The woman smiled. "A man in a black suit. Looks like someone important." Lily's heart skipped. For a second, she thought it couldn't be him, but when she stepped out and saw Ethan standing there, she froze. He looked tired but peaceful, his eyes soft and full of emotion. "Hi, Lily," he said quietly. "It took me a long time to find you." She didn't move. "Why are you here?" she asked. "To see you," he said simply, "and to tell you something I should have said long ago." Lily took a deep breath, trying to stay calm. "You shouldn't have come. You have a life back there." "I don't have a life without you," he said softly. "I searched everywhere, not because I wanted to control you, but because I couldn't breathe knowing I'd hurt you." Lily looked away, tears forming in her eyes. "Why now, Ethan? It's been months." "Because I finally understood what love really means," he said. "It's not about owning someone. It's about cherishing them even if they walk away." But I couldn't live with not trying. There was silence. The world seemed to pause around them. For a moment, neither spoke. The pain, the distance, the guilt, it all hung between them like unspoken truth. Then Lily said softly, You found me, Ethan. But what now? Ethan looked at her with eyes full of honesty. Now I just want a chance. Not to buy your love, not to win it, but to earn it. Lily's heart trembled. She didn't answer, but she didn't walk away either. For the first time in months, she allowed herself to hope. As the evening sun painted the sky in gold, their eyes met. Two broken hearts finding their way back to each other. Ethan knew this was not the end of their story. It was the beginning of a new one. The morning sun filled the hospital room with soft light as Lily slowly woke up. Her head still hurt a little, but her heart felt strangely calm. She turned her head and saw Ethan sitting beside her, half asleep on the chair, his coat covering her feet. He looked tired but peaceful, like a man who had finally found a reason to stop running. When he opened his eyes and saw her awake, he smiled. Not the confident CEO smile everyone knew, but a real, quiet one. "Good morning," he said gently. "How are you feeling?" Lily nodded slowly. "Better, thanks to you." Ethan shook his head. "Don't thank me. I should be the one thanking you for giving me another chance to fix my mistakes." The doctor entered and told her she could be discharged by evening. Ethan immediately offered to take care of the bills, but Lily refused. "I can pay in small parts," she said. "You don't need to do this." "It's not about money," Ethan said softly. "Please, let me help this once." After a long pause, she finally nodded. She didn't want to argue. Deep down, she could see he was trying to make things right. Later that day, Ethan drove her home. Her small apartment was old but warm, filled with simple furniture and a few photos on the wall. One photo caught his eye. A young boy in a graduation gown. "Your brother?" he asked. Lily smiled proudly. "Yes, Tom, he's studying medicine. I work extra shifts so he doesn't have to give up his dream." Ethan looked at her with admiration. "You're amazing, Lily. You do everything for others and still stay humble." She smiled faintly. "Life taught me to be strong. We didn't have much growing up, but we had each other. That's enough." There was silence for a moment, a warm kind of silence. Then she looked at him seriously. "Why did you really offer me that money, Ethan? Was it a joke to you? Or were you just trying to prove something?" Ethan sighed deeply. He had avoided that question for days, but now he couldn't run from it. "No, it wasn't a joke," he said quietly. "It was a mistake. One born from pain." He looked down at his hands, then spoke slowly, like every word carried weight. "Years ago, I was engaged. Her name was Clara. She was beautiful, smart, everything I thought I wanted. I trusted her completely. I gave her everything, my heart, my time, my dreams. But one day, I found out she was only with me for my money. She was secretly planning to take over part of my company with one of my business rivals. When I confronted her, she laughed and said, 'Every woman has a price, Ethan. You just have to find it.'" Lily's heart softened as she listened. There was pain in his voice, raw and real. He continued, "After that day, something inside me broke. I stopped believing in love. I started thinking she was right, that everyone had a price. When I met you, I felt something different, something I hadn't felt in years, and that scared me. I told myself it wasn't real, that you'd be like her, so I did the cruelest thing I could. I tested you, and you showed me how wrong I was." Lily sat quietly, trying to understand the man before her. He looked so powerful on the outside, yet so fragile inside. "You were hurt," she said softly, "but you let your pain turn into pride." He nodded slowly. "Yes, I built walls around myself so no one could hurt me again. But I see now those walls didn't protect me. They just made me lonely." Lily didn't know what to say. She could see he was sincere. She could also feel a strange warmth growing in her heart. Pity mixed with understanding. "We all have scars, Ethan," she said gently, "but we can't punish others for what someone else did." "I know," he said quietly, "and I'm sorry, not just for what I said, but for not believing that good people like you still exist." From that day, something began to change between them. Ethan started visiting Lily often, bringing food, books, and sometimes just sitting quietly while she rested. They talked for hours, not about business or money, but about small, simple things. Lily told him about her dreams of opening her own spa someday. Ethan shared stories of his childhood, how he used to sneak out with his father to eat street food before fame and money took over their lives. Slowly, laughter returned to their conversations. Lily found herself smiling when he came, and Ethan felt a peace he had never known. But not everyone around them was happy about it. One evening, at the resort, Lily overheard two of her co-workers whispering, "Did you hear? That billionaire is visiting her again. Maybe she changed her mind about the money. I knew it. No girl like her would turn down a man like him for long." Lily's hands trembled. She turned away, hurt and angry. No matter what she did, people would always think she was after his wealth. She didn't want Ethan to suffer because of her. That night, when Ethan came to see her, she looked sad. "You shouldn't come here anymore," she said quietly. He frowned. "Why not?" "People are talking. They think I'm using you." "I don't care what they think," he said firmly. "I know the truth." "But your reputation, your company, everything you built," she said softly. "I don't want to be the reason people start questioning you." He took a step closer. "Lily, none of that matters. Let them talk." She shook her head. "It matters to me." The pain in her voice was deep. Ethan wanted to argue, to tell her that he didn't care about the world anymore, but he saw the tears in her eyes and stopped. "Please," she whispered, "let me go before this becomes harder for both of us." Ethan stood there, his heart breaking, but he didn't stop her. She turned and walked away, her shoulders shaking. That night, as he drove home, he felt the same emptiness he once had. Only now, it hurt 1,000 times more because he knew what real love felt like. And he had lost it again. Days turned into weeks, and Ethan still couldn't shake Lily from his mind. He tried to focus on his company, but every meeting felt empty. The laughter of his colleagues, the fake smiles of investors, all of it felt meaningless. Every night he returned to his big, lonely penthouse, surrounded by silence. Sometimes he found himself staring at the phone, wishing he could call her, but he knew she didn't want to see him again. Still, deep inside, something had changed in him. The man who once thought love was a weakness now missed the woman who had shown him what strength truly meant. One rainy evening, Ethan drove out of the city just to clear his thoughts. The streets were wet and shining under the streetlights. He passed by the same road that led to the resort where Lily worked. He didn't plan to stop, but his heart led him there. When he reached the spa, he saw the lights turned off. It was closing time. He sat in his car for a while, watching the rain fall, when suddenly he noticed a familiar figure walking under an umbrella. It was Lily. She was heading toward the bus stop, her bag clutched tightly, her uniform slightly wet from the storm. Ethan's heart beat faster, but he didn't move. He just watched her quietly, afraid she'd walk away if she saw him. As she crossed the road, a car came speeding from the corner. The driver didn't see her. Ethan's heart stopped. In a split second, he jumped out of his car and shouted, "Lily, watch out!" But it was too late. The car hit the side of the road and Lily fell hard onto the wet ground. The world froze around him. Without thinking, Ethan ran toward her, rain pouring down his face. He dropped to his knees beside her. Her eyes were half open, her breathing weak. "Lily, stay with me, please," he cried, his voice breaking. She looked up at him faintly and whispered, "Ethan." Before her eyes closed, panic filled him. He picked her up in his arms and rushed her to the car. His hands trembled as he drove through the storm, his heart racing faster than the wipers moving across the windshield. "You're going to be fine," he whispered again and again, but his voice shook. He reached the hospital and shouted for help. Doctors came running, taking Lily away on a stretcher. Ethan followed, but the nurse stopped him. "Sir, you have to wait outside." He stood there, drenched in rain, watching the doors close. Hours passed like years. Ethan sat in the hallway, his hands covering his face. For the first time in his life, money meant nothing. He would have given away everything just to see her open her eyes again. When the doctor finally came out, Ethan stood up quickly. "Is she okay?" he asked, his voice desperate. The doctor nodded slightly. "She's stable now. She had a small concussion and a few bruises, but she'll recover soon." Ethan let out a deep breath, his shoulders shaking in relief. "Can I see her?" he asked quietly. The doctor nodded. Ethan walked into the small hospital room. Lily lay on the bed, her face pale but peaceful. He sat down beside her, afraid to touch her hand, afraid she might wake up and tell him to leave. But after a few minutes, he slowly reached out and held her hand gently. "I'm so sorry, Lily," he whispered. "If anything happened to you, I wouldn't forgive myself." He stayed there all night, never moving, his eyes fixed on her face. Every hour, a nurse would come in to check her pulse, but Ethan didn't leave. He didn't care about meetings, calls, or his company. In that small room, nothing mattered except her. In the early morning, Lily opened her eyes slowly. For a moment, she looked confused. Then her eyes met his. "Ethan?" she whispered weakly. He nodded quickly, standing up. "I'm here. You're safe now. What happened?" she asked softly. "You were crossing the road. A car almost hit you. I was nearby and brought you here," he said. His voice was low, full of emotion. She looked at him for a long moment. "Why were you there?" He hesitated, then said honestly, "Because I couldn't stay away. I know you told me not to come, but I couldn't stop thinking about you. I just wanted to make sure you were okay." Lily turned her head slightly, avoiding his eyes. "You didn't have to do that," she murmured. "I know," he said quietly, "but I wanted to." There was silence for a moment, broken only by the sound of the rain outside. Then Lily said softly, "You should go. You don't owe me anything." Ethan shook his head. "I owe you everything, Lily. You opened my eyes. I've hurt many people before, but with you, it's different. I don't want to be that man anymore." Lily looked at him again, and this time her eyes softened. She saw something she hadn't seen before. Honesty. Not pride, not ego, just real emotion. For the first time, she believed he truly regretted what he had done. "You've changed," she said quietly. "Because of you," he replied. "You made me see what kind of person I was becoming." She didn't reply, but a small tear rolled down her cheek. Ethan gently wiped it away. "Rest now," he whispered. "I'll be here when you wake up." Lily closed her eyes and Ethan sat beside her, watching the sunrise through the hospital window. The light touched her face, and in that moment he realized something he had never known. Love wasn't about owning someone. It was about protecting them, caring for them, even when they wanted nothing from you. For the first time, Ethan felt something real. Not guilt, not pride, but peace. As the morning light grew stronger, Ethan promised himself silently, "I'll make this right. I don't know how, but I will." He didn't know that this accident would become the beginning of something deeper, something that would change both their lives forever. The next morning, Ethan woke up with a strange heaviness in his chest. He had faced angry investors, business losses, and betrayals, but nothing ever bothered him like Lily's words did. "You need to remember what being human means." Those words echoed in his head like a quiet storm. He went to his office and tried to drown himself in work, but every time he looked at his phone or the glass walls of his cabin, he saw her reflection. The pain, the disappointment, the fire in her eyes. He wasn't used to feeling guilty. He was Ethan Reed, the man who always won, but now he felt like he had lost something important, something he couldn't name. He sent flowers to the spa the next day, a bouquet of white lilies with a small note that said, "I'm sorry." But when the delivery boy came back, he told Ethan that Lily had refused to take them. That rejection hit even harder. For the first time, Ethan realized how meaningless his wealth was when it came to forgiveness. He tried calling the resort, hoping to book another session, but she was always unavailable. Days turned into weeks, and every time he returned to the spa, someone else attended him. He couldn't help asking about her once, but the receptionist only said, "She doesn't work with VIP clients anymore." Ethan's friends noticed the change. He stopped going to parties, stopped smiling in meetings, and spent long hours alone in his penthouse. His assistant, Claire, found him staring out the window one evening and asked gently, "Are you okay, sir?" He just replied, "I hurt someone who didn't deserve it." She looked surprised. Ethan Reed had never admitted guilt before. That night, he sat in silence, remembering every moment with Lily. Her calm voice, her soft laughter when he once made a small joke, the peace he felt during her sessions. He realized he didn't just respect her, he missed her. On the other side of the city, Lily was trying to forget too, but it wasn't easy. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Ethan's face. Not the proud CEO, but the man who looked tired and lonely underneath. She hated herself for feeling sorry for him after what he did. She told herself he was just another rich man who thought money could buy anything. But deep down, she couldn't stop thinking about how broken he had looked when she walked away. She wondered what kind of life could make a man so cold. Lily continued working, but her smile was gone. Her co-workers noticed her silence, but she brushed off their questions. She needed the job. Her younger brother, Tom, was still in college and she couldn't afford to lose income. One evening, as she was leaving work, she found an envelope in her locker. Inside was a simple note. "I'm sorry for that night. I was wrong. Please give me a chance to make things right." It was unsigned, but she knew who it was from. For a moment, her heart softened, but she tore it in half and threw it away. "He doesn't deserve another chance," she whispered to herself, though her voice shook. Ethan, however, wasn't ready to give up. He started visiting the resort again, not for massages, but just to sit near the gardens where she used to walk. Sometimes he caught a glimpse of her from afar. Her simple dress, her tied-back hair, her calm way of speaking to guests. He wanted to go to her, to say he was sorry face to face, but fear held him back. What if she turned him away again? What if she hated him forever? The man who had faced the toughest business deals couldn't gather the courage to face one woman. One evening, it began to rain heavily. The staff ran for shelter, and Lily stepped outside to close the windows of the spa's side room. Ethan, who had been sitting in his car, saw her struggling with the wind. Without thinking, he ran toward her and helped shut the window. They stood there, soaked in the rain, silence filling the air between them. Lily stepped back immediately, her eyes cold. "Why are you here?" she asked softly. "To say sorry," he said, his voice low. "You already did that," she replied. "In notes, in flowers. But you can't buy forgiveness." "I'm not trying to buy it," he said quickly. "I just want you to know that I regret what I said. You didn't deserve that. I was angry at myself, not at you." Lily looked at him for a long moment. There was pain in her eyes, but also confusion. She could see the sincerity in his face, yet she didn't trust it. "You can't just apologize and expect things to be fine, Ethan," she said quietly. "You hurt me. You made me feel small, like I was just another thing you could buy." "I know," he said, lowering his head. "And I hate myself for that. I didn't know how to be kind anymore." Lily turned to leave, but his next words stopped her. "I don't want your forgiveness," he said softly. "I just want you to know you were right. Not everyone has a price. You taught me that." For the first time, her eyes softened. She didn't reply, but she also didn't walk away. For a few seconds, the sound of rain filled the silence between them. Then she finally said, "Don't come here again. Ethan, please." She walked away, leaving him standing alone, rain pouring down his face. That night, Ethan sat in his car for hours, watching the raindrops slide down the windshield. He knew he had lost her trust completely, but inside, something had changed. The guilt was no longer about what he said. It was about realizing what he had become. The walls he built to protect himself from pain had turned him into someone he didn't recognize. For the first time, he didn't want money, fame, or power. He just wanted peace, and he knew that peace had a name: Lily. Ethan Reed was the kind of man who had everything the world could offer. At only 32, he was the CEO of a powerful company, driving luxury cars, living in mansions, and flying in private jets. People called him a genius, a business legend, and even a golden boy of success. But behind that perfect smile, Ethan felt nothing. His world was made of fake people, empty laughter, and women who smiled only when they saw his money. He had dated models and actresses, but every relationship ended the same way. They wanted his wealth, not his heart. Slowly, he began to believe that love did not exist, that every woman had a price. One evening, after finishing a long meeting, Ethan decided to stay at a quiet resort far from the city. He wanted peace, something real, even for a moment. The resort was beautiful, surrounded by palm trees and the smell of the sea. He booked a massage session to relax. That's when he met Lily. She walked into the room wearing a simple white uniform, her face calm and gentle. There was something different about her. No makeup, no fake smile, just kindness in her eyes. She greeted him softly and began her work. Unlike others, she did not try to impress him or flirt. She just did her job with care, speaking only when needed. Her touch was gentle and her silence peaceful. Ethan found himself watching her more than relaxing. For the first time in years, he felt like a normal man, not a billionaire. When the session ended, Ethan sat up, curious about her. "What's your name?" he asked. "Lily," she replied politely, avoiding his eyes. "Your session is over, sir." "Don't call me sir," he said with a faint smile. "Call me Ethan." She nodded but still kept her distance. She had seen rich men before, arrogant, proud, sometimes cruel. She didn't want to be part of their games. Over the next few days, Ethan booked her again and again. Each time, he tried to start a conversation, but Lily always stayed professional. Still, something about her calm nature made him feel strange. He liked her quiet voice, the way she listened without judging, the way she smiled politely and walked away without asking for anything. It made him wonder why she was different. He didn't know she worked 2 jobs to support her younger brother's education. She had no time for dreams or romance. Life had made her strong and humble. One evening, after a stressful call with his business partners, Ethan went to the spa again. His mind was tired, his heart heavy. Lily noticed the dark circles under his eyes and asked softly, "Rough day?" He looked at her in surprise. No one had asked him that in years. "Yeah," he said quietly. "Everyone wants something from me." She gave a small smile. "Maybe you are looking in the wrong places," she said simply. Then she went back to work. Those words stayed in his mind long after she left. Something inside him shifted. He felt drawn to her honesty, her simplicity. But his ego whispered something else. A cruel test, a way to see if she was truly different. He wanted to know if she could be bought like everyone else. The next day, after his massage, Ethan stayed sitting while Lily prepared to leave. His voice was calm but sharp when he said, "Lily, I want to make you an offer." She looked at him confused. "An offer?" "Yes," he said slowly. "I'll pay you $1 million. For one night with me." The words hung heavy in the air. Lily froze. For a second, she thought she had heard wrong. Then she realized he was serious. Her face turned pale, her eyes filled with disbelief. "What did you just say?" she whispered. Ethan leaned back emotionless. "You heard me. $1 million. No strings attached." For a long moment, Lily didn't speak. Her heart pounded not from fear but from anger. She had seen many rich men who thought money could buy anything, even respect. But this one hurt more because she had begun to think he was different. She looked straight into his eyes and said quietly, "You think everyone has a price, don't you?" Ethan's face stayed cold. "Doesn't everyone?" She shook her head slowly. "Not everyone. Some of us still have pride." Her voice trembled, but she stood tall. "You don't need a woman, Mr. Reed. You need to remember what being human means." Without another word, she turned and walked out, her hands shaking but her eyes full of fire. Ethan sat frozen, her words echoing in his mind. He had expected anger, maybe tears, maybe a yes, but not that. Not rejection, not dignity. For the first time in years, he felt small. Her refusal hit harder than any insult he'd ever received. He tried to laugh it off, but he couldn't. Her image stayed with him, the look of hurt and disappointment, the strength in her eyes. That night, Ethan couldn't sleep. He sat by the window, staring at the city lights, remembering her words. "You need to remember what being human means." He realized he had crossed a line. All his money, all his success, none of it could erase the emptiness he felt now. Somewhere deep inside, he wished he could take back what he said. But it was too late. Lily was gone, and he knew he had lost something precious, something he could never buy again. And for the first time, the man who had everything felt truly poor.